I'm going to read two poems from my book, We Are Nothing and So Can You. The book is written in alternating sections of prose poetry and lineated poetry. So I'm going to read one prose section and one lineated section. Because there were more rules than there were things, many more, countlessly more. Because, indeed, the rules made little whirlpools of infinite abandon inside the things, which seemed removed the more they seemed ruled. And because everyone and everything seemed to have its own rule, its own disenchanted genius, so that no one could really be said to be ruled at all, if rule then meant a domination we shared. Because anarchy, in other words, and each of us slated to suffer a unique violence, a violence like a name, with nothing general about it. Some thought this meant that communism was already here. Others thought it meant communism was impossible, since we would never be able to match up the electrical flares in our brains with the patterned inertia we encountered. But wasn't that the point? The unworkable? At least we were tired of it, whatever it was, tired of rehearsing under the rotting awnings a few moments of unverified intimacy from the last hours of the little credit we had left. Was that seriously what was meant by art after all the bandages had been removed? We had burned all the banks by the sea. Ours was not a normal darkness, not, in other words, the darkness of shadow, of obscuration, light blocked by solids. No, ours was a radiant darkness. It spread out from our skin like any shining, except that it canceled shine. Dragged into the clearing at the heart of all hell breaking loose, it fled from us and into the stars, kicking the liquid crystal displays into the musty rooms of pimply middle-class adolescents intent on bringing down the government for reasons no one could articulate, because all articulation is, in fact, raison d'etat, a red herring at best. The most you can do is trick it out to fit the limits of your particular human organism, its mangled sensorium. We get an old city bus and give it the number of a line that doesn't exist, 47 or 810. Immediately, we exclude all those sad characters who know where they are going and want to go there, who think in terms of means and ends, origin and destination, or who are compelled to do so for reasons of material or perhaps moral circumstance. This narrows our range of writers less than you might imagine. Indeed, we estimate that at any one moment, fully 1/5 of all passengers are there for reasons other than the desire to get somewhere in particular. People who could care less where the bus is going as long as it's going. People whose bodies are exhausted and just want a place to sit down. Kids who are more interested in each other than anything else and who follow with collapsed heads the colored signscape of the world. People who carry their faces in their hands. People who carry things in plastic bags. People who carry other people. Eventually, we have so many buses running, so many constantly improvised lines, and so many partisans running into and out of the buses and grabbing provisions off the shelves of corner shops with or without guns, and taking the gas that we need from the gas stations with or without guns, with or without leaving behind the mutilated corpses of police, and getting off one bus and onto another, that the buses become like the rooms of a disarticulated mansion, whirling through space and crossing and recrossing, combining and disassembling in a stupid, manic dance. Some buses are entirely dedicated to sleeping and some to eating. Some buses are 24-hour dance parties. And on some buses, people bicker constantly. There are theoretical buses and flirtatious buses. There are sanitation buses and fully armed bank-robbing buses. And buses that hate all the other buses. There are so many of these buses spinning through the city that eventually it truly is as if they were themselves the only thing stationary in a crazy world, jumping about in every direction, as if space had too many dimensions to be space, but not enough to be time. The army and the people are one. If this is correct, please press 1. Every face that you see has a shame like a sun. Is he one now? Is she one too? From the towers, the deputies point and shout, "That one, that one." No one you know has been outside of the zone. The army and the people are one. I walked right into the house and turned it on. A wall slid in front of the sun. 1 plus 1 is 1. The risible boys and fungible girls build up their hungers into a facsimile of none. The army blockades all the bridges, the tunnels. Through loudspeakers, they tell us the people have won. You've had your fun, taking a hammer to the hard drive in advance of the first waves of the Hun. Little is known about the things we have done. The army and the people are one. But has anyone seen a people? Was it holding a gun? Do its movements coincide with the price of bullion? For those of us who lived through rebellion, what remains is Monday, mostly Monday in abundance. 1 taken away from 1 is 1, like Kronos eating his young. A century is not so long.